Top of the morning, Jan Proft here. So, more Mexican Independence Day related activities have been postponed. El Grito Chicago organizers announcing they have postponed their festival in Grand Park scheduled for September 13th and 14th. After careful consideration and at the recommendations of the state of Illinois and city of Chicago officials, organizers have decided to postpone El Grito Chicago, due to possible ICE activity and a potential National Guard deployment. Given the festival's location in downtown Chicago, organizers recognize that the festival is a more visible target and have determined that keeping the community safe must be the top priority. Oh, really? On the advice of the city and the state. What was the advice? Exactly. How did it go? You have a lot of people in this country illegally who are going to attend your festival, and some of them pose public safety threats. Some of them ICE probably has warrants for, and you may not want to do that festival because it'll make it easier for ICE to apprehend them and move them for deportation, because they're in this country illegally and have committed crimes or pose some sort of public safety threat, which is the priority. Is that what the advice in council was? Why are all these things being canceled? Because these are law-abiding people? Why would law-abiding people in this country legally have anything to fear from ICE? Isn't that an obvious question? If you have not broken a law, why would you have anything to fear from law enforcement? Is that too obvious? So you're conceding the point, and you're essentially making a general effort to aid and abet the concealment of people who have broken the law on the advice of the state and the city. Isn't that nice? BLM Brandon, it's shameful that the president's reckless militarized immigration enforcement tactics have forced organizers of El Grito to postpone the celebration this year. He's very saddened about it. Can you respect the Mexican community and also respect the rule of law? I think you can. I think many in the Mexican community do, actually, ironically. But, of course, they're not the ones that anybody in the D.C. or Chicago press corps are interested in hearing from, much less the Chicago political power structure. Yeah, it's all about respect, is it? The mayor of North Chicago, Leon Rockingham Jr., said of Customs and Border Patrol and potentially National Guard that would be stationed at Great Lakes, that doesn't make Lake County feel safe knowing that they're there. Why wouldn't they at some point be deployed to Lake County? We have Round Lake, we have Mundelein, we have other areas that have heavy Latino population, so I think all of Lake County should be concerned. Why would all of Lake County be concerned? I assume most of Lake County has done nothing wrong. So what do they have to be concerned about? The way they talk about this, you sort of get inured to it, and you forget how asinine it all is. I'm not concerned. You're not concerned. People who've done nothing wrong are not concerned. People who have done something wrong have reason to be concerned. And isn't that sort of the resting posture of the concept of the rule of law? It's astounding to listen to them talk about the coverage, too, the incendiary coverage, pun intended, flashbang grenades and early morning raids. How Trump is planning to target Chicago. It's a federal incursion. No, it's a federal law enforcement action. But this is the way it's characterized. And it goes largely unchallenged, except, by me and a few others, including those in law enforcement. I cannot play this clip enough from the presser earlier this week. The characterization Pritzker offered of federal law enforcement And by extension, National Guardsmen who would back their play were they to be deployed.
Second, unidentifiable agents in unmarked vehicles with masks are planning to raid Latino communities and say they're targeting violent criminals. As we saw in Los Angeles, a very, very small percentage of the individuals they will target will be violent criminals. Instead, you're likely to see videos of them hauling away mothers and fathers, traveling to work or picking up their kids from school. Sometimes they will detain, handcuff, and haul away children. They are law-abiding individuals who pay taxes and contribute to the communities who feel safe going to work and attending mandatory immigration check-ins. In other words, they're following the law. We have reason to believe that Stephen Miller chose the month of September to come to Chicago because of celebrations around Mexican Independence Day that happen here every year. It breaks my heart to report that we have been told ICE will try and disrupt community picnics and peaceful parades. Let's be clear, the terror and cruelty is the point, not the safety of anyone living here.
So, follow-up question, Governor Pritzker, you're running for president. You want to be president. If you were elected president, would you move to designate ICE as a terrorist organization? You just said the terror is the point. They're going to disrupt parades. They're going to be masked men in unmarked cars taking grandmothers away and children, just like they did in L.A., except that's not what they did in L.A. They executed raids across multiple locations in downtown L.A., leading to the arrest of 44 people. 44 people out of the millions of people who live in and around L.A.? Does that sound indiscriminate to you? Actually, it sounds very surgical to me. Remarkable that he gets away with those sorts of characterizations with very limited pushback. Jody Weis is a former superintendent of the Chicago Police Department. He joins us now. Jody, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. You left me in shock hearing those comments. It's remarkable,
isn't it? And I mean, it just dissipates into the ether like this is, just responsible commentary, or this is, him protecting his people, whatever that means. I guess his people are people who break the law. But I mean, you speak to it because you've got background both on the federal side as well as the state side, and how well the federal and state law enforcement work together when they're not impeded by politicians.
Yeah, Dan, think about it. For decades, the Chicago Police Department has worked with federal agencies going after gangs, drugs, different types of investigation. And it's been very, very, very profitable. When I was in the FBI in Chicago, we had Chicago police officers who were sitting on the violent crime FBI squad. You've been there for 15 years. They were training new agents. So the relationship, if you get the politicians out of it, are outstanding. But when I listen to this windbag run his mouth like that, it's like, you think he's talking about Al-Qaeda or some terrorist group, and these guys are just going out trying to get the worst of the worst out of our country. And it's so dangerous to make comments like that. Even out here in Arizona, I hear these comments like, we're going to resist, we're going to fight back. But what is he talking about? An insurrection? Because that's what it sounds like. But to listen to this guy, and as you said, other than you, no pushback, it's stunning to listen to a politician speak like this. And the other thing, Dan, I want to bring up, look at D.C. D.C. has had such great success. You have the mayor there begrudgingly saying, you know what, this is working pretty well. So when the police department is down 2,000 officers, why in the world would you not work with the president? Work to bring in additional resources. Give the officers a chance to be proactive, to be preventative, rather than running from crime to crime to crime. Because down that many officers, I was blessed. I was never down that many. But you get to a point, even a large department like Chicago, you just don't have enough officers. And I really feel sorry for the police officers right now working under these conditions. It's horrible.
Well, and also too, I mean, the just this talking point that to work keeping the community safe by hiding the criminal element within the community. I mean,
unbelievable.
Right,
Unbelievable.
And you just had this incident in Florida, and there's so many more like this. So with the illegal immigrant from India illegally gets a CDL, doesn't know how to operate it responsibly, probably doesn't, well, but per the testing, doesn't even understand many traffic signs, makes this U-turn on the turnpike, a minivan crashes into him. He kills 3 people. He's charged with 3 counts of vehicular manslaughter, and the 3 people he killed were Haitian immigrants. I mean, so like, how are you keeping the quote unquote immigrant community safer when you have people that have a reckless disregard for other people's lives or are actual predators, like was arrested? Those were arrested, gangbangers, TDA gangbangers, and others. Child predators arrested with those ICE actions in LA back in June, and that's all glossed over onto like basically let's everybody hide so we can keep our community safe for criminals. It's remarkable.
Yeah, and it's like, are you listening to your constituents? I was been shocked at the number of residents in Chicago that are calling for help, that are asking for the president to send in the National Guard, that are asking for federal resources. And Dan, just
because you know why? Because they sorry to interrupt. You know why they are? Because they don't summer in Lake Geneva or Wellington, Florida. They live in neighborhoods that, as you well know, have been beset by endemic violent crime for generations.
Yeah, the police have done a great job tamping down crime. The numbers are phenomenal, but you still are leading the nation in homicide. So you can't sit back and say, we've done a great job, and have the politicians scream about how safe Chicago is. You know, I was looking at the shootings over the weekend or Labor Day weekend. You know, in one place, I think 7 people were shot at 11 o'clock at night. Another place, machine gun fire erupts and 5 people are shot. And so you can't sit back and say we couldn't use help. And the thing that really shocks me is this is a no-lose situation for Pritzker and Johnson. They should welcome Trump in. If it doesn't work, they can say, hey, we tried to work with this. We did everything we could. But to just say no as the people are screaming for help from a political standpoint, I think that's absolutely stunning. And it could be so easy. You know, bring in some additional AUSAs, bring in some additional agents, even the simple cases like a felon arrested with a handgun. That could go federal. You've got a Hobbs Act, which is one of my favorites. We used it in Philadelphia. If somebody knocks off a liquor store or a convenience store, you know, that does interfere with interstate commerce, and from robbery is an act of violence. So you can take these cases federal. And the nice thing with going federal, the criminals will go away for a long time to a place far, far away. But nobody wants to sit down and just talk about this. ICE would work with the police department. They'd work with the community. And you said it perfect early on. The immigrant community would welcome this because so many of the people ICE are going after, who are the victims? It's their fellow immigrants that are there. So they're not targeting people in some of the wealthier areas. They're targeting people in the communities where they live. So, of course, the immigrants in the city of Chicago legally would love to have this help and get these criminals out of the city, out of the country.
And with, I mean, so ICE is one thing, the National Guard and federalizing it for the enforcement of federal law in American cities is another. What's your perspective on that, even if it's necessarily going to be for a temporary period of time, but perhaps for a surge in resources for the purposes of immigration enforcement, as may be happening here or in New Orleans or in Baltimore, but sort of your general reaction to this approach that the president may be on the cusp of taking?
You know, Dan, I think what it can do, it can give some relief and allow the officers in the police department to kind of regain a foothold. The National Guard can be great deterrents. You can have them go in, assign a force. They can be a force multiplier, and you can put them in the high crime areas like some of the parks, some of the open air drug markets, and that'll stop the crime right there. They can really help out with logistics if the department wants to run checkpoints and try to find some of the gangbangers going from one place to the other, or perhaps moving for a retaliation strike. They can help enforce that from an intelligence perspective. They have great analysts in the military, so they can help the police department, you know, determine where the officers need to be and when they need to be there. So it can be a great force multiplier. And I think you just have to look at D.C. about how effective that has been. From the federal side of the house, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of way to bring in quick impact cases. The problem I always have with the feds, and I was with them for a long time, their cases are strong, but they take forever. A RICO case will take years. But there's other things that you can do as I mentioned earlier, that can have that quick impact. And they are federal prosecutions, which will send these young men away for a long period of time. A felon can get 10 years, a felon arrested with a gun, 10, 12 years. Some have mandatory minimums that they have to hit. So there's a lot of things that could do. What would that do? That would let the police almost like reset. And then they can work more on the broken windows theory. You can't do broken windows theory policing, in my opinion, when the city is out of control. You got to tamp that down, and then you can start going at the low-level crimes, and then you can start being more proactive. But I would welcome them if I was Larry Snelling right now, only because it would give me a chance to almost take a step back, assess, figure how we can work with the federal agencies, how we can best position the National Guard to give us some relief, and then we can refocus on those areas that need the strongest policing. So I think it's an opportunity that's being lost. And I really feel sorry for the city of Chicago, because every time I'm watching the news, I see residents and citizens coming forward saying, we need help. And, I look at Pritzker walking around the lake at 6 o'clock in the morning. You just start laughing. It's like, what are you doing at 6 o'clock in the morning down in the lake? Of course there's no crime. Do that at Englewood or Austin or Garfield Park at 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, I don't think he's going to feel so comfortable doing that. So it's just performative theater with him and Brandon Johnson. But, I was never a big fan of Lori Lightfoot, and I thought they'll never get a worse mayor than Lori Lightfoot, but they have.
Yeah.
And that is so sad. The citizens and the residents of Chicago deserve so much better.
Jody Weis, former superintendent of the Chicago Police Department. Jody, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, Dan, keep the fight going. Your voice is important. There is a lot of people that want to hear you, so hang in there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Jody, thanks so much for joining us. And he did on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to